Hello newsletter readers and welcome to my humble abode. I'm Liv and in this edition of the 66 I will be giving my bookshelf tour. Now I know in the videos that Duncan and Jill have done in the past they've spoken a little bit about their favourite books or books that if they were trapped on a desert island they wouldn't mind reading again and again and again. With my bookshelf tour I want to sort of take it as an opportunity as I nearly depart my 20s, to talk about some of the books that might not necessarily be my favourites, although there will be a few in here that I love very dearly, to talk about the books that have helped to carry me through the last 10 years of my life. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first book that I want to talk about is Miss Benson's Beetle. Now this is written by Rachel Joyce and it was given to me about 2 or 3 years ago by Jill. I'll be completely honest, at the time, I was feeling a bit low, a bit sort of stuck in a cycle of not feeling particularly happy. And I didn't really feel as though I had a particularly strong support network of friends around me. I felt like that was something that was really missing from my life. And Jill gave me this book and said, I think this could really help you. Now, this book, for me, is a really beautiful portrayal of female friendship and how the most unlikely friends can be found in even the most unlikely of people and unlikely of places. It's about two women who come from vastly different backgrounds who create a really special connection in pursuit of finding this golden beetle, which, yes, perhaps sounds like a bit of a strange premise, but actually takes these two women on a wonderful journey navigating thousands of different scenarios and kind of bring them closer together. So yes, if that's something that you feel would be pertinent to you, I would suggest reading this book. And that brings me on to the next book, which is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I think if you're the same age as me, or even if you're not, maybe if you're a bit older, you'll have either read this book, heard of this book, or seen the BBC Three adaptation. And it's set in Ireland. It follows two people, Connell and Marianne, and it starts out when they're sort of at sixth form, or the equivalent of sixth form over here, and it really just delves into the intricacies of sort of your first relationship and love, and having to navigate love in your early 20s, in the beginning part of your life when you're developing your first sort of adult relationships. It's heartbreaking. It's full of joyful moments. It's really reflective. And I've picked this book up probably 3 times in the last 10 years, each at particularly big turning points in my own relationships. I think that everyone should read it at some point. And if you don't want to read it, then watch the BBC Three adaptation and fawn over Paul Mescal and his glorious chain. But yes, I think that this is something that everyone should read. It's not a difficult read. It's actually one of those books you can just take on holiday, so perfect for this time of year. The next book, again, one that most women, I think, have probably read. I do feel like a lot of these books are probably angled more towards women than men, so sorry boys. This is Bridget Jones's Diary, and I think everyone has heard of this. Jill and I recently went to the cinema to see the latest film, but this is the first book, and I don't want to talk about this from sort of the perspective of dating or anything like that. I know that the big focus of it is Daniel Cleaver and Mark Darcy, and you know, if you're a woman like me, you kind of want a bit of both. Hugh Grant, yes, thank you, but I want to. The reason that this book really speaks to me is that it's about that point in your 20s and early 30s where you and your friends are on such different trajectories and on such different paths. I know that's the case for me and my friends. We're not all heading in the same direction. We don't all want the same things. And I think it can be really easy sometimes to fall into the trap of comparison. And I think what's really special about this book is that it's a really light-hearted, relatable and funny way of relating to those same issues, and you know, it's not a modern issue. This was published years and years and years ago, and it's still as relevant as it is today. Again, perfect for going on holiday, really easy. Think that people should read it if they have the opportunity to. And then I'm going to sort of go down a slightly different path. This is one of my favourite books. Again, another recommendation from Jill. If anyone wants to know where I get my love of reading from, it would be her. This here is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. This book is possibly one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read. You feel every emotion reading it, and John Boyne's writing style it's just a joy. It's a pleasure to read. Again, it's set in Ireland. This is a bit of a recurring theme here. It's set in Ireland, and it follows, starts off as a boy into a man called Cyril Avery. And I won't go too much into the plot, but it follows this man as he sort of has to navigate the political and social tensions that were going on in Ireland in the last century. And in that process, he sort of has to build resilience and learn who he is in the face of prejudice and ignorance. So I think if you've got a chance to read this book, and it is a fairly chunky book, I think you should. It's maybe not one to take on holiday. It's parts of this book are utterly heartbreaking, but equally parts of it will make you laugh and smile. So maybe one to read at home, but definitely one that's worth picking up. And then this next book has a bit of a funny story attached to it. So quite often Jill and I will go to Waterstones in Farnham looking for something to read, and up until about a month or so ago, I was in a bit of a reading slump. I just couldn't get any inspiration to pick anything up. So we're going to Waterstones, and the lady behind the counter says, "Have you tried A Court of Thorns and Roses?" And I said, "Yes, I have tried." And I haven't wanted, I've read the blurb, I've flicked through, I've read a few pages. But if I'm being completely honest, I'm a bit of a book snob, or I was up until very recently. And I think part of that is the mindset of having gone to uni and studied literature, and you have to read all of these amazing, massive, world famous classics. The idea of picking up something which essentially has just got famous via social media and TikTok and book talk, it just felt like it was a bit beneath me. That's really shallow of me, but it's true. Anyway, I ended up walking away with this book, and I read it in one day. And I'd finished the entire series within a week, and I had finished what's known as the Massverse, which is 12 books across 3 series within a month. And although I won't jump into the plot again because I don't want to ruin it, I think for anyone who uses reading as a form of escapism, this is a really great book, because it's a perfect example of how good stories don't necessarily need to be written perfectly. They don't need to be unpredictable. They don't need to take lots of sharp twists and turns. Sometimes they can just feed into the tropes and themes that we know and love and work. So yeah, read this. I will warn you, if slightly promiscuous literature isn't really your thing, then perhaps stay away from this. But if it is, it's my kind of thing, then you might learn that 6-foot men with bat wings can't really compare to real life men. So there's that. And then I'll end on a book that I mention every single video. It's a book that I hate and that I wouldn't pick up and I wouldn't recommend to anyone. I'm going to throw it out there. This is Middlemarch. I wouldn't pick this book up again if somebody offered me £1 million. And I'd like to apologise to my university professors because I know they love it, but I hate it. And it wouldn't be a book video if I didn't mention my hatred of Middlemarch. So there's that. Thank you for watching my bookshelf tour.